Hello and welcome to my kitchen. My name's Wayne and I'm one of the sport welfare leads at Active Essex. And my role is to work with clubs and physical activity providers in supporting their staff, volunteers, club welfare officers with everything to do with safeguarding and welfare related topics. This week is Eating Disorder Awareness Week and we felt that this was a really important subject to shine a light on because of its close connection with sport and physical activity. I'm really pleased to be joined by Sian today. Sian brings a really personal and powerful perspective with relation to eating disorders and sport. Sian's from the Active Essex Foundation. Sian, why is Eating Disorder Awareness Week important to you?
Obviously I'm sat here today from my lived experience, but I'm here today because eating disorders are often overlooked, misunderstood, and there's not enough conversation around it in order to keep participants safe. There's a lot of pressure in sport, including performance, weight management, body image, and I think that it's a really important subject that we touch upon today to make sure that providers are creating that safe space.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's why conversations like this are really important, and it's important that we don't shy away from it either, which sometimes can be a natural reaction to sensitive topics, that it's easier not to say anything. But it's really important that we are confident enough to be able to have these conversations. And the more that we better understand signs and triggers to eating disorders, then the better equipped we are at creating these safe environments where people can thrive, right?
Definitely.
Yeah. So this short video is just a preview of a more in-depth presentation that Sian and I can do online or in person, where we really do go into much more detail about the spectrum, understanding the spectrum of eating disorders, alongside practical tips and hints that coaches and volunteers can do to start protecting and supporting their members. In this short video that we're going to do today, what we're going to do, we're going to be touching on three key areas. And the first one is what eating disorders can look like in sport, and also how the sporting environment and culture can influence risk, but also how we can all play a really important role in creating safer and more positive spaces for everyone involved in sport and physical activity in relation to eating disorders. So Sian, tell us a little bit about your role at Active Essex and why sport is so important to you.
So I'm working at the Active Essex Foundation. My role is the Mental Health Development Officer, and I'm working across two projects ranging from 5 to 25, using sport and physical activity as an early intervention for those struggling with their mental health. Okay. And what about sport in your personal life? So for me, it's everything. I do some form of physical activity every day. I've got various ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, and I'm also neurodivergent. So sport and physical activity is vital to me, being able to sort of thrive and just feel good about myself, well enough to do my job. Whether it's a walk, whether it's a run, a gym session, going to play five-a-side football. In the past it's been lacrosse. Not only has it obviously given me those mental health benefits from like the endorphins that I have, it's improved my focus, I've had team connection. So yeah, it's really important to me. Okay.
So obviously this is Eating Disorder Awareness Week. Give us a little introduction into your life and you with managing eating disorders.
Well, in actual fact, I didn't always enjoy physical activity and sport. When I came into senior school, it was very competitive, and I actually used to get a note to get out of it, which you'd never believe now. But when my...
Did you fake the note?
Oh no, my mum would gladly write them for me. But which I think she sees now as probably not the best thing. But no, going into my early teenage years, I sadly lost my dad suddenly, and fell into a bit of a, just a chaotic period of my life. Lots of change, lots of things not in my control, and I also had food coming into my life as a love language. Family, friends, they want to...
What do you mean by that love language?
That, making sure that you've got dinner every night, but that wouldn't just be a dinner, it'd be make sure we've got dessert and make sure that you've got snacks. And my mum would do the same, you've lost your dad, let's take you for a nice snack.
So it's just family and friends sort of looking out for you and doing what they can to help.
Yeah,
right, okay.
Definitely. And but in fact it did make me put on quite a bit of weight in obviously quite a challenging period of time. And I think at that age just become more aware. Instagram was becoming a thing, and I was at an all-girls school, so it just become very noticeable to me. But also that sense of just needing to do something for my head. You know, people around me no longer kind of understood my life. I felt quite lonely in my situation, and so I started running, which I don't know why, but I'm so glad I did. I started running on the school field on my lunch just to have that time for myself, to improve my fitness, to think, no, I want to change this situation. And that's an attitude I've always had. If you're not feeling good, then what can you do? What can you put in place for things to be better for you? So yeah, I started running at lunchtime, and that was the first time I'd actively, in my senior school life, wanted to do some kind of sport at school. And unfortunately, my head of year at the time, Mrs. Quinn, big up, you know, saw me running outside, and she was just like, look, we've got the school gym. It's usually for those doing GCSE, PE, it's for sixth formers, but go and give it a try. And that will always be with me, you know, outside my work at Active Essex Foundation. I'm a PT, I'm a coach, so it has shaped the trajectory of my life completely. So yeah, that's when I first started finding sport and gym, really.
Okay. How can you remember when you were running around that school field, or when you first started going to the gym? Can you remember specifically how that was making you feel?
Yeah, I think at times, obviously, like all emotions, it does fluctuate, and I'd go into that space from a really bad place, really, actually. But it's somewhere to be mindful, and that's something that I've carried with me when you're doing any kind of exercise, to be able to focus on it and to challenge yourself. Really puts the intention into what you're doing rather than your feelings. And if you do have feelings there, it gives you that time and space to really process that as well.
Okay. So if we go back to when you were talking about all of the praise you were getting for losing weight, and all of these comments on your appearance, and you said that spurred you on to do more. What were you doing to do more? Like, if we think specifically about food, how is that changing your relationship with food?
I think the measures just become more drastic, like food intake reduced, like leaving lessons to, you know, participate in kind of bulimic behaviours, and being kind of, you know, having a reputation of a girl that doesn't really cause any trouble. I think, you know, I would be let out of lessons to go to the toilet and things like that. So, and that probably leads on to some of these warning signs. You know, you think that, again, misunderstood. Someone appears well, they appear like they're doing really good with their grades, they might be actually even doing well in their sport. It doesn't mean that something isn't going on. So it's just important to notice that. Sometimes throw my lunch away. Fitness trackers, I think actually I'm a big believer in there needing to be a bit of an age limit on fitness trackers. It gives you a recommended calorie intake for a certain amount of weight loss that you want to achieve over a certain amount of time, and that's what I did. I just hit it on the lowest thing and followed it, and that was the only guidance I had. So, you know, from wanting to lead a healthy lifestyle, all the guidance I had was an app, and that is where, you know, anyone in the physical activity and sports sector needs to have the knowledge, or I believe, of what you need to fuel your performance and to feel good.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you remember a specific time when you recognised yourself, or you identified yourself, this harmful relationship that you were getting with food?
Definitely, I can pinpoint the running. I'd run, I think, like a marathon over 3 or 4 days, which for some is nothing. But
what age
for me,
was this?
14, 15. 15, I think. And I was just like, I'm done. I don't like this anymore. It's not enjoyable for me now. But it was the repetitive, have to do it nature. It wasn't like, I love a run now. I run by the sea. Beautiful feeling. But it was that I don't want to do this anymore. And I think that's when I really realised you want this to take up so much of your time. Food took a lot longer. This is, you know, I would say I'll always live with eating disorder or disordered eating habits, and it's how I manage them now, which is so far beyond what I could have hoped for something that went on, as I say, like over a 9-10 year period in different waves. I think that it was more of a like saying no to things. I didn't want to say no to going out for dinner anymore. I didn't want to not bake. I love baking. I didn't want to not do that anymore. You know, I want to start it again and not fear having some of it after. And I think it's having that awareness in yourself to be able to work on it. And it's, you know, it's something that will go on and on. I have to check myself sometimes still and be like, no, that's an old habit. It's a repeated pattern.
If we rewind then to 14-year-old Sian, 15-year-old Sian.
Yes.
Was there a pivotal moment where you thought, actually, I shouldn't be doing this? Like the way that I'm eating, the lack of food, or what I'm doing with food, my relationship with food, this isn't right, I shouldn't be doing that.
I think it was when I knew that I probably needed to talk to someone and didn't. And there was a fear in the space that I would be in trouble, I'd be an added burden to my family, things like that, where I think knowing that and assessing that in my head was like, actually this is a problem. Because if you've got fear of talking about something, it's usually because you know it's an issue. Yeah. And I think that was quite pivotal. And my mum had had a phone call to say, I've noticing some behaviours. And I think whilst I was absolutely like devastated at the time, it was probably the best thing for me. But yeah, as I say, I think that the reason I'm so passionate that I want to talk to you today is that actually creating a safe space for participants to be able to talk about what's going on with them is so important. Because I think that had I not had that fear of chatting to the school counsellor or pastoral team or having a chat with my mum and saying, you know what, I don't think this is right, then would it have got worse before it got better? We might have been able to do something about it back then.
Did you at any point try and talk to someone?
One time, and I was weighed, and it really, I said, I don't want to weigh myself. I think this is going to make the issue worse for me to know those numbers. And that was the only time I sort of ever had any support. And again, that's why we link back again. It doesn't have a weight. You can be a healthy weight and still have the mental health issues that go with disordered eating. Yeah,
100%. So if you were, if you were going to speak to coaches, club volunteers, organisations about signs, symptoms, indicators, what were your specific indicators that someone from the outside might be able to recognise?
I think the drastic change in going from no physical activity to lots, and I mean over a short period of time. Obviously amazing to be able to build that up and build your fitness, but to go from kind of someone that's getting a note to running at lunchtime every day without fail, sometimes after school as well. I think that big change is something to be aware of. I think that obviously for me it was leaving lessons or pulling away. Maybe it was around if I was to eat a meal with someone and then leave quite abruptly. I think obviously these things add up to, you know, what's going on here. To others it might be fatigue, like someone that's usually really vibrant quite frequently come in and they seem really low, maybe almost like a sugar low, because they might not fueled for that session. I know at the foundation we encourage refreshments at physical activity clubs to make sure, you know, if someone hasn't had something, there's something on offer for them so they can participate safely. So I think, there's some of the real sort of warning signs there. I think,
you mentioned earlier about fueling for performance, and I think that's really important. And Marianne and I, we recently spoke to a group of parents that had children that were on an elite sport pathway. So these were children that were at the top of their game in their particular sport. And we spoke about food and in messaging and helpful messaging. And there were a lot of parents that were sort of nodding their head and agreeing. And there was a few that spoke to us afterwards about how they would make comment to their child and be an adolescent, a teenage child, and then make comments that, you're eating us out of house and home, or you're eating more than your dad does. You know, things like that. And so that's unhelpful on the reverse, isn't it? So it's really tricky. It's a tricky balance to find.
100%. And I would say, like, you're never going to get it 100% right. What lands well with someone won't land well with another. but it is important that we avoid certain things, but we also confront certain things. So obviously avoiding commenting on weight, commenting on appearance, etc. Because either way, you know, someone that's you know, really petite and struggling, they could be really struggling. They might even want to put weight on and can't. Or you might have someone that, you know, is struggling. Like for instance, me. Probably from a health perspective, I did need to lose weight. I'm only 5 foot. I was, you know, 13, and I was overweight to a point that, you know, I was asthmatic. That really reduced through me participating in physical activity. So, you know, it's, yeah, avoiding certain comments, but also confronting issues like we've spoken about today. Being able to safely signpost and be aware. So yeah. Quite a difficult.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Okay, so what is sport bringing to you now, and what did it bring to you when especially when you're talking about team sports?
Yes.
So like football, lacrosse. What did that bring to you? Aside from the endorphins.
I think being around like-minded people that want to keep fit, that want to look after themselves, because that's something I want to do now. Like I eat well. I'm not averse to having a pizza, don't get me wrong, but I eat well most of the time, whole foods, that support me in what I want to do. Yeah, definitely balance. I definitely do that. But yeah, they're going out to do a sport and to connect. I think for me it's amazing to connect with a group of girls, especially as an adult. I always say making friends as an adult is a lot harder. Feel like you're either at work or with family generally, so actually sport and physical activity does provide that hub for that social connection that isn't partying or anything like that. And then like just progressing in it, like to be able to see yourself get better and better at something is a real win. Like if I have scored a goal at 5-a-side, they're all in it with me because they know I don't play for a club. They want me to do well. They want me to get a goal and go home and happy. And we have a laugh. So
connection is really important, and that's a massive thing with sport, and the connection that brings. And then we start expanding our networks and then creating having these safe spaces where, you know, you feel seen and heard.
Absolutely.
Which is vital, isn't it? Okay, so if we then think about coaches and volunteers at sports clubs, what can they do with regards to having an awareness of eating disorders, and what can they do to sort of create these safe environments where their members and their teammates and participants feel safe and respected, where they might then be able to approach and talk about a difficult subject like eating disorders?
I think firstly, for all the issues that I know yourself and your team look into in terms of safeguarding, I think just creating that warm, I don't know, you tell me, but that warm, friendly and approachable environment is key, I think, to build a rapport and make somewhere a safe space. Obviously for me, I didn't feel at the time of where I probably needed support the most that I had that platform to be able to talk to someone to say, actually, I'm aware of this and I need signposting. Could I have a space? But you know, these topics can be embarrassing. They can bring shame, and so to actually provide a non-judgmental setting and set boundaries, I think, as well. Like from, you know, if you are working with people, especially in the mental health space like us, you know, trying to say, like, if you do need to come and support, we are here. That openness back. I think checking in is really important because it's not always going to be the person that's struggling that comes to you. It might be you 100%. Going to them. And I think just the warning signs that we've spoken about are just a real snippet of some of my experience and not in a lot of detail either. So there are websites, there is advice out there, you know, I've linked to Beat Eating Disorders. Dove do a great campaign all about what an eating disorder can be. So I think that, you know, having that knowledge is power in supporting people. So looking into that. If you do notice a build-up of signs, you know, it might be that you don't broach that conversation with that person yet, but you go and have a look online. We've got so much access to resources now that it might say, this person possibly does need signposting or a conversation. And then think, approaching things again with sensitivity, avoiding things like notice you've lost weight. Like it's not helpful.
Be really mindful in your messages, I suppose.
Yeah, you know, are you feeling okay today, or have you had something to eat before the session? It's really important that you feel fueled for this, because we're going to be working hard, things like that. And language, again, really important, along with role modelling. You know, not talking about yourself needing to go on a diet or your food behaviours. You know, especially young people, I'd say they're very susceptible to what they think their trusted adult supports or agrees with or is doing. So just being mindful that those conversations aren't exposed to those young people.
When Marianne and I, when we talk to club welfare officers and designated safeguarding leads, we talk about, and I touched on it briefly, we talk about having that that bravery, that courageousness to have that conversation or start that conversation and not being scared of getting it wrong.
Yeah.
Because we want to get it wrong. You know, if I approach someone about a safeguarding concern, I 100%, every fibre of my body wants to be wrong. But we have to think, well, what if I'm right? And so we can't shy away from having those conversations. But you're spot on when you talk about education and knowledge, because that is power. And then when we start learning more about signs and symptoms to eating disorders, we start becoming better equipped to be able to address them and try and support people that we think, you know, maybe going through it. We also talk to club welfare officers about it's not their expectation, it's not anyone's expectation for them to solve everyone's problems.
No, absolutely not.
They just don't need to. All you need to be able to do is identify a concern and know where the support is. And that's it. And then you can signpost people. You can even reach out to organisations yourself and run past a scenario and say, you know, there's someone on our team and I'm concerned because of this. And they will point you in the right direction. They will tell you what steps to do and they'll give you advice and tips as to the best way to address that issue. So it's not about tackling things head on and going in ill-equipped and like a bull in a china shop. It's just being sensitive to these subjects, these topics, and being able to reach out for support. And
it's being brave. It's like you say, it's being brave to have the conversation, but it's also being brave to know where your scope of practice ends.
Yep.
I think you don't, you know, it's not your job to fix everyone's problems, and you can't. But actually being like, how do I escalate this? How do I get the right support? That's brave to me. Yeah,
100%. Yeah, completely agree. Right, Sian, that's great. Thank you very much for that. And thank you for joining us today and having this chat with me. I really appreciate it.
No worries at all.
So if you want to have more information on resources available, if you have a look at the end of this video, we'll put some links up to that. But also have a look at the Active Essex website on the Safeguarding Hub there. And there you'll be able to find out more about some of the stuff that Marianne and I are doing with regards to safeguarding and welfare in sport. And also we'll put something up about the training that we can do with Sian in person or online, where we delve a little bit more deeper into this subject.